Arguably, some would say that Pink Floyd is probably one of the best bands of all time, and their concept album, The Wall, is an interesting study for sure. And we take a look at that in our music section of Lifepoints. But for now, let's stick with this image, this Michael Belk Journeys with the Messiah image of Jesus on one side of a wall and some other figures on the opposite side of that very wall. When Roger Waters wrote The Wall, when he played with Pink Floyd, he was 36 years old. He called himself at that time, looking back, a frightened young man. And I find this interesting because he associated many experiences in his life as bricks within that wall. Let me tell you what I mean. He suffered the loss of his father as a very, very young age, only 3 months old. But later in his life, he realized that his father going off to war was one of those bricks. It frightened him, that abandonment and that isolation that he experienced apart from his father. He experienced abandonment and isolation in terms of even his audiences. When Pink Floyd played before audiences at times, they sense a disconnect between the audience and the music they were playing, and it really bothered them. They actually, I think that was the genesis of this wall project. They actually visualized a wall between the band and those who were listening to the music. Not only that, but Roger Waters had sort of a helicopter mom, sort of hovered and overprotective and wouldn't let him go, and it's really stymied his creativity. Well, his mother represented a brick in that wall as well. He was afraid never to get out from under her rule, and he had a serious issue with school, grammar school, and teachers, and you can hear that in the lyrics. Only accentuated by the breakdown of his marriage, that this wall of isolation and abandonment and fear had been constructed in his life, and they begin to sing about it in this concept album. So, not unlike this image, we have Christ on one side of the wall and seemingly kind of wondering, can we get together? Others sort of ambivalent to that he's even over there. The question now begs the question, what experiences do we have in our life that for the most part have walled us off from a possible personal, intimate solution to those issues? Do we have fears or abandonment issues or isolation or frustration? Or do we have maladies or disorders or health issues that we blame God for? And when we start to blame God for these things that happen in our life, then we start to build and construct the wall between us and Him. He patiently awaits our desperation of breaking through the wall or taking the wall down. In fact, His whole entire ministry was to heal, teach and preach and to heal every disease and sickness among the people, to remove walls between Him and them. If there's a wall between you and the God who died for you, He doesn't want it there. But He also wants you to not want it there. And He wants both of you to make a decision so that out of your own volition and choice, you can tear down that wall. I've been on both sides of that wall, and I can tell you the one on which Christ finds Himself is liberating and freeing, is creative, adventurous, it's interesting, it's never boring, it's quite informative, and it's highly inspirational. I've been on the other side of that wall, and it's lonely, and it's arid, it's confusing at times. It's anxious and panicky and really without direction. I had to come to the end of myself, and I had to relinquish and surrender my wall to Him, that He could tear it down, and we could have some friendship together. Identifying what your wall is important, because when you cry out to Him, and you will, ask Him to remove those bricks. Be the father you never had, to be the parent you never had, to be the fellowship and the friend you never had, to be the solution you've been looking for, to be the peace in the midst of a storm, to be love instead of fear, to be order instead of confusion, to be present instead of absent, to be concerned instead of ambivalent, to be interested instead of bored, to be loving and kind and tender and patient with you, instead of wanting to own you or manipulate you or use you in some way, shape, or form. There's a true love on the other side of that wall. You got to try to talk to Him through the wall, and you got to get it down so you can be together. I think Pink Floyd saw that on some level. Walls are not good. Consider that. Good image. There's a lot there.